Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a classic, absolutely fascinating tale from ancient Indian folklore, involving the legendary advisor Tenali Rama. But, we aren't just here for story time today. We are going to break this narrative down as a literal masterclass in human behavior, basic economics, and conflict resolution. It is so surprisingly relevant today. Let me ask you something right off the bat. Can you actually change someone's deeply negative mindset without punishing them? I mean, think about it. When someone wishes ill upon others, our very first instinct is usually discipline, right? We want to penalize that bad behavior. But I want you to keep this question in the back of your mind as we go through today's analysis, because the answer we find here, it might just completely change how you handle the difficult people in your own life.
All right, let's get into it with Section 1, The Secret of the Sad Merchant.
Picture this. We're traveling back in time to the ancient, super prosperous kingdom of King Krishnadevaraya. Everything in this society is running smoothly. The markets are bustling. People are happy. But there's this one strange anomaly. Every single evening, on his daily stroll through the city, the king notices this one specific merchant, and despite living in a wealthy, peaceful kingdom, this guy always looks deeply, profoundly unhappy. He just sits there, quietly brooding, day in and day out. It's just this glaring, weird contrast to the vibrant world around him.
So the king is just absolutely baffled by this. He's thinking to himself, why does this merchant become so intensely sad the literal second he sees me? It feels, well, kind of personal, right? Almost targeted. So the king turns to his cleverest, most trusted advisor, Tenali Rama, and basically gives him a mission. Figure out why the mere sight of the king brings this guy such obvious sorrow.
Which brings us to Section 2, A Terrible Truth. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Tenali Rama doesn't just march right up to the man, flash his royal badge, and demand answers. Nope. Instead, he conducts what we'd call today a root cause analysis. He quietly monitors the merchant's daily life for a few days. He's meticulously observing the foot traffic, checking out the inventory, watching the man's interactions. He is gathering the hard data first. And what he ultimately discovers? It's a fundamental, devastating flaw in the merchant's business model. This is a textbook example of a tragic economic loop. Let's break it down because it's crucial. Step 1, the merchant's entire livelihood relies on selling sandalwood. Okay, fair enough. But step 2, in this specific culture, massive quantities of sandalwood are really only demanded during high-profile royal funerals. So that leads to step 3. To survive, to literally just feed his family, this merchant is backed into a very dark psychological corner. He is forced to secretly wish for a tragedy in the royal palace, just to boost his sales. See, he isn't inherently an evil guy. His economic incentives are just perfectly, terribly misaligned with the king's well-being.
Man, as you can imagine, when Tenali Rama reports this back, King Krishnadevaraya is completely floored. Hearing that one of your very own citizens is actively praying for a royal tragedy, which essentially means praying for your death or your family's death, it leaves the king absolutely stunned. The immediate temptation here for literally any ruler in history would be swift punishment. We're talking treason charges, jail time, or honestly, much worse.
So, what do? That leads us to Section 3, Tenali Rama's plan.
How do you deal with a citizen who wants you dead purely for profit? Well, rather than arresting the man or punishing him for his dark thoughts, Tenali Rama comes up with a brilliantly unconventional economic stimulus. He advises the king to issue a new mandate. He says, announce that all palace temples, yajnas, which are ritual offerings, and all religious activities for the entire year will exclusively use sandalwood. Think about the sheer genius of this for a second. He doesn't attack the man's mindset, he attacks the market conditions that are creating the mindset.
And the results? Instantaneous. This clever royal decree creates massive, immediate demand in the market. The merchant's entire stagnant inventory of sandalwood sells out almost overnight. For the first time ever, he earns a really handsome, legitimate profit that has absolutely nothing to do with mourning or death. Basically, his financial anxiety is entirely wiped out in one swoop.
And that brings us to Section 4, Change in Thinking.
With his economic reality completely shifted, we get to see this incredible psychological payoff. The contrast is just staggering, really. Before this intervention, his mindset was locked into wishing for a royal tragedy just to survive. But look at the new mindset that emerges. The exact same man who once quietly wished for a royal funeral now stands up, folds his hands in deep respect, and sincerely prays for the king's long, healthy, and prosperous life whenever the king walks by. His personal success is now directly tied to the king's active religious life, not his death. Now, when the king takes his evening strolls, he just smiles warmly at the merchant. He realizes that Tenali Rama's absolute genius move completely erased the malice in the merchant's heart. He boosted the local economy, helped a struggling citizen, and secured his own safety. And the best part? He did the whole shebang without shedding a single drop of punitive blood or issuing a single fine.
All right, let's bring it all together in Section 5. What is true wisdom?
This brings us back to that core philosophical question: what does this actually teach us about leadership and conflict resolution in our modern world? Well, when the king praises his clever advisor, Tenali Rama drops this incredibly profound piece of wisdom. He says several times, the best way to change someone's mind is to give them the right opportunity, not punishment. He reminds the king, and all of us really, that human behavior is very often just a byproduct of circumstance. You change the circumstance, you align the incentives, and you effortlessly change the behavior.
So the final lesson here is essentially twofold. First, economic stability breeds positive thinking. When people feel secure, when their livelihoods are moving in the right direction, their mindset naturally shifts away from scarcity and malice and moves toward positivity and gratitude. Second, and this is absolutely crucial for anyone in a leadership position, true wisdom lies in engineering solutions, not in just hunting for people to blame. Look, anyone can punish a fault, but it takes a true leader to design a solution that organically benefits everyone involved.
As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with this. How will you apply this solution-oriented mindset to the conflicts in your own life? Seriously, think about a difficult person you're dealing with right now. Maybe it's a coworker, a family member, or a tough client. Instead of asking how you can punish them or prove them wrong, ask yourself, what is their underlying incentive? And how can I provide them with the right opportunity to naturally change their own mind? Give it some thought. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.